MSHN training number 11, prevention and management of aggressive behaviors and staff effectiveness, our general de-escalation class. One of the most important therapeutic tools that you have is your own behavior. If staff provide an acceptable behavior model, residents are likely to benefit by identifying with the staff member and patterning their behavior accordingly. Staff behavior can increase or decrease potentially dangerous situations. When dealing with residents in crisis, all staff must consider what about themselves might influence the situation. Stress, irritability, and preconceived notions may be factors in how you respond and how the resident perceives you. Variables to consider are your own emotional state. Are you tired? Are you more prone to overreact? Consider your relationship with the resident. Is it good or bad? Consider your size, your sex, and your strength compared to the resident. And keep in mind your own physical limitations. Consider your history with the resident, your own personal vulnerabilities, and consider your own moral and ethical issues. As a staff member, you must be aware that residents in crisis may key into your sensitive issues and verbally attack you. Learning to effectively communicate with residents in crisis is a requirement of effective service. Residents in crisis are not able to use good judgment or act in a rational manner. However, you as a staff member are expected to show good judgment, restraint, and socially appropriate behavior at all times. You must also realize that you will be the target of displaced anger at some time during your workday. Residents in crisis will displace their excess frustration and rage onto you. No matter how much warmth or empathy you exhibit, you will likely be a target of upset residents or family members who may or may not know you. No one is immune, but remember, crisis is our business, and people in crisis may not be rational. You must see yourself as a professional and act accordingly at all times. Professionalism requires, number one, detachment. You must not take it personally when or if a resident displaces the feelings onto you. Number two, crisis prevention and management skills. Learn the skills that will enable you to effectively communicate with people even when they're at their worst. Number three, take care of yourself. This is a stressful job. You must have avenues available to you to let go of the stress you face at work and renew yourself physically and mentally. Remember the need for adequate rest, nutrition, and play. Four, use healthy coping strategies. Rely on teamwork. Establish and use good communication skills. Take a time out. Don't be afraid to back out and let another staff member take over with the resident. Appropriately vent to coworkers and talk to others about your fears, frustrations, and concerns. Maintain regular communication with your supervisor. Number five, make sure you know the following about yourself. What types of behaviors upset you the most? What moral or ethical issues do you have that may influence your work? What personal issues are you most vulnerable or sensitive to? And how do you respond under stress or in crisis? Body language. In dealing with residents in crisis or residents who are escalating, our body language, tone of voice, use of space, and other nonverbal aspects of a message are extremely important. Residents may be hypersensitive to your body language during an intervention. Body language is made up of the way you position yourself in relationship to others, whether you stand or sit, the way you hold your arms and hands, the way you position your legs, the muscle tension that may be evident in your neck, shoulders, or back, the way you move, quick or slow, nervously or calmly. Body language also includes the little things that you do not that you do that convey subtle meanings, such as tapping your fingers, pursing your lips, rolling your eyes, and so on. Nonverbal communication includes not only body language, but also other qualities. In communication, the following rules apply. Visual body language accounts for 55% of what is communicated. Your tone of voice accounts for 38% of what's communicated. That's your voice inflection, volume, speed, tone, etc. And the actual words only account for 7% of what's communicated. Body language can communicate a wide variety of messages. If you're calm, your body language may include relaxed shoulders, open hands with palms exposed, a casual stance, relaxed facial muscles, easy slow movements, and accepting eye movements. Eye contact. It has been said that no facial feature is more important than your eyes. We've all heard the expression, I can see it in your eyes, or the eyes are the window to the soul. Your eyes play an important role in communicating anger, joy, sadness, pleasure, fear, love, and all other emotions. What your eyes may mean to residents. If you're glaring or staring, that communicates aggression. If you're darting your eyes, that communicates anxiety or divided attention. Brief eye contact communicates fear. No eye contact communicates a disinterest or lack of respect. The rule of thumb for eye contact is maintain eye contact for as long as it takes to complete one sentence, break briefly, and then re-establish eye contact. The position and use of your hands are especially important in communication. Some messages may be given. If you're pointing a finger, that's an accusatory message. Clenching fists can be an assaultive message. Some movements, you're kind of in attack mode. Behind your back, what are you hiding? Raised hands mean aggressive. Palms up versus palm downs means dominant or authoritative versus trustworthy or honest. The physical position you take in relationship to the resident is important. A direct face-to-face position may be interpreted as direct confrontation and an attempt to challenge or overpower. The resident may feel boxed in or concerned. A more effective nonverbal message would be to avoid a face-to-face and stand slightly off-center and to the side of the resident. This position avoids the appearance of direct confrontation or challenge. The resident is less likely to strike out against you, but if it happens, the off-center position reduces the striking range of at least one of the resident's arms. Remember, face-to-face equals confrontational, side-to-side allows a perceived escape route. and watch whether or not you're tense versus relaxed. Your height in relation to the resident is nonverbal communication as well. If you stand over the resident and get in their face, this is seen as an invasion of personal space and may instigate a defensive physical response. If at all possible, it is best to get at the resident's eye level during a conflict or crisis. One way to do this is to invite the resident to sit down with you. Sitting down reduces the height differences and may put the resident more at ease and may increase the possibility of processing the crisis. In addition, by inviting the resident to sit down, it may offer a graceful exit from the crisis situation. Everyone has an area of personal space that encircles them. This circle marks our comfort zone. It is perhaps the most important aspect in determining our comfort level with others. The size of our comfort zone is determined by a multitude of factors. When you're with your loved family members or close friends, you will usually require less personal space than if you were with an unknown person, a person with whom you don't have a close relationship. When approaching a resident, it is important to remember everyone has an area of personal space. If you invade a person's personal space, they may exhibit an increase in anxiety. Not only will people, not all people will have the same personal space. The amount of personal space a person requires may differ depending upon the situation. A good rule of thumb is to maintain a distance of one leg length away. Sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. The way you say something is every bit as important as what you say. A sarcastic comment or resentful apology tells the listener that you really don't mean what you're saying. The three main components of your voice include voice, tone, and rate. The volume of your voice will tend to get louder in direct proportion to the tension and stress you're feeling. Your tone and rate of speech will also be affected by your stress level and feelings about the situation. In dealing with residents at the houses, it's important to think about the situation, think about the resident, and think about your goal. If this situation if this situation calls for you to quickly establish authority and maintain control, a loud command may be necessary. However, a raised voice often serves to provide additional stimulation to the resident. An alternative method to show you're in control, at least of yourself, would be to remain calm and keep your voice from climbing. Your own relaxed body language can have a reassuring and calm effect on the resident, whereas tense or aggressive body language may provoke a defensive response and cause the situation to escalate. The resident's body language is important too. Watch for signs that may indicate that the resident is calming down or escalating. Attitudes that affect behavior. Number one, the pecking order. Think that one resident is better than the other, not treating residents equally. Number two, irrational attitudes. Unable to control emotions or being unreasonable. Number four, number three, I'm the boss. Not allowing resident input. Failed to negotiate options with the resident. Number 4, staff conflicts. Preconceived impression of the resident as a troublemaker or a drug seeker. Also conflicts between staff on how the resident should be treated. Number 5, power struggles. A power struggle is a non-productive battle of wills between staff and residents. Individuals in the escalating stages of crisis are often resistant, oppositional, or openly hostile towards staff because their thinking and communication are occurring at a primitive level. They're not always able to listen to or respond to rational communication. Such behaviors can easily lure staff into a power struggle. A power struggle can often mark the flashpoint that can quickly escalate a low-level or escalated crisis into an active crisis with physical acting out. Power struggles have the following characteristics. They are played out with a win-lose mindset. One person comes out the winner by getting their way or forcing their way. The other person becomes the loser. They are emotionally charged. Emotions can include anger, fear, frustration, and anxiety. They are non-productive. Both players in a power struggle are aggressively acting out. There are 4 major types of power struggles. 2 initiated by the resident and 2 initiated by the staff member. One called challenging authority. Who are you to tell me I have to go to group? Then you have attacking staff vulnerabilities or pushing buttons. You act pretty big for someone so short. One-upsmanship. Allowing a situation to escalate beyond the original issue with threats and counter threats. And 4, bringing up unrelated and or past issues, confusing the situation at hand with past unrelated behavior. Professional relationships exist to meet the needs of residents, not the staff member. There are times when setting limits may be necessary when dealing with resident behavior. Understand, if this becomes necessary, the only individual that has the power to set limits over a resident is the executive director or their supervisor. Effective limit setting is offering choices. The resident ultimately chooses desirable versus undesirable consequences. Supporting therapeutic structure which provides logical and reasonable rewards and consequences for actions or choices the resident makes. Effective limit setting is giving the resident the power to control the outcome of the situation. Effective limit setting is not forcing the resident to comply with your directives. It is not punishing the resident for inappropriate behaviors. And it is not taking power away from the residents. Some helpful hints when limit setting. Deliver the limits in a firm and business-like, not angry manner. Remember, the limits are designed to be helpful and avert escalation. It should not incite the resident. Use positive tone and facial expression. Don't hover. You must team to monitor without intruding to an unreasonable degree on the resident space. Number three, do withdraw as soon as possible. Once you set limits, don't discuss it for hours on end. Just deliver it and then withdraw. Number four, don't make unnecessary multiple demands. Any out of control resident may be doing several things at the same time: yelling, threatening, lashing out physically when approached or touched, mumbling or pacing, requesting that the resident stop all objectionable behaviors at one time may be counterproductive to demanding for the resident. You should see the behaviors as quick and as you should see the behavior as quickly as possible and decide if the behavior is dangerous. Then target the behaviors in a sequence which appears to give the resident the best chance of regaining control and providing for safety. Number five, do stay focused and end the intervention as soon as possible. Do not allow the resident to engage you in a debate about fairness at the time of the intervention. Unit rules should be clear, public, and reviewed beforehand. Remember, you are simply enforcing the rules. Refuse to get into a game of no, I didn't, yes, you did. If you're not certain about what you saw or heard in the first place, don't be too quick to intervene. If it turns out you misperceived or misinterpreted the resident's behavior, apologize to the resident. However, if you suspect the behavior is dangerous to the resident or others, it is better to act quickly and be mistaken. Control less, control often, less is more. You should avoid getting into a pattern where you or the staff members become more and more controlling. The overall goal for unit management is to help residents develop their own cultural controls over their own behavior. You should always be open to receiving feedback from residents, families, and other staff. Always be a good listener. A good listener listens to understand what is being said, not to load up with a reply or contradict to impose authority. A good listener asks questions to truly show understanding, such as, what do you mean? A good listener is careful not to judge too quickly, but looks for clues as to what the other person is trying to say. A good listener puts aside viewpoints and opinions, realizing prejudices and opinions can distort meanings and result in a personal conflict. A good listener is resident, knowing that we can listen much faster than we talk, giving the resident the time to tell their story. A good listener does not interrupt with answers beyond reading. I'm sorry, a good listener does not interrupt with answers while listening, but receives the whole message before giving a return message. Remembering the resident's last sentence may be the most important. A good listener is alert and interested, shows attentiveness through nonverbals such as leaning forward, nodding, consistent eye contact. They express support feelings with facial movements, Listen for keywords, phrases, and main ideas from the resident. A good listener expects the resident's language to differ from the way he or she might say the same thing themselves. Does not argue with words, but listens for the message. A good listener does not counterattack, but rather listens for areas of agreement and common thoughts. Remember, crisis is our business, and people in crisis may not be rational.